morning, let's make a character.
While I create my new player character in the background, I'd like to talk about the state of 3D programming in GameMaker. 3D games in GameMaker traditionally used to consist of only what you could draw with the D3D commands. People used clever combinations of spheres, cylinders, blocks and walls, and used the D3D transform commands to make them move. Most of the 3D games that were made in the GameMaker 6 era were tutorial edits, with most of the code copied from the infamous Doom tutorial. Times have changed. Nowadays, all D3D functions have been removed, so there is no straightforward way to draw 3D primitives. And to be honest, I think this is for the better. The threshold for getting into 3D programming has gotten a bit higher, this is true, but the fact is, GameMaker is even better for 3D games now than it has ever been. In the absence of official 3D support, the community has been making libraries and resources to support the creation of 3D games. And a lot of them are very impressive and greatly expand the functionality of GameMaker. I want to highlight a couple of them in today's video, and you'll find links to all of them in the description. I'd like to start by recommending Dragonite's YouTube tutorials on 3D game development. He has helped countless programmers get into the world of 3D with his clear and concise tutorials, and this shows that there really is a market for 3D in GameMaker. A lot of OBJ importers have been made over the years, but none are as comprehensive as Juju's .obj importer. OBJ is a format that is used for static models, and the .obj importer can be downloaded for free from Juju's GitHub, link is in the description. Blueburn's BB mod is without equal when it comes to importing professional models and materials into GameMaker. Among other things, it lets you convert animated models in the industry standard FBX format to a GM-friendly format and lets you draw them with advanced PBR materials. Alexander Kondirev, aka Alsecond, has made an FBX importer in pure GML, downloadable for free from the marketplace. I will link to a couple of other interesting projects and resources as well, including Joe Ellis's Warp 3D, which is a full 3D game development suite, and iGameArt's Dopefish, which lets you load Doom and Hexen WAD files. Personally, I like using the tools and scripts that I've made myself through the years. In this video, I create my model in Blender and export it to OBJ. Then I will animate it in the SMF model tool, which is a free and open source animation system that I've developed for the last 3 years. I'm still getting used to Blender, so I figured creating a character would be a nice exercise. During the process, I learned the hard way the importance of saving all the time. I had to remake the texture from scratch 3 times because Blender decided to crash. I am far from an artist and the face needs some work, but I'm happy with it for now and I can always redo it later.
Okay, so the character is done. It was actually done a week ago, but it's been a busy week. And now it's time to make him move. And the normal workflow for getting an animated model into a game engine is to animate it in Blender and export to FBX. However, I'm going to use the SMF model tool, and that does not support any standard animation format. So I am instead gonna export it as OBJ. I'll save it as mushroom.obj. And now I am actually done in Blender, so I can close that. Do I want to save? Yes, I do want to save. And now I am in the SMF topic at the GameMaker community, and this is the main hub for the SMF system. So in the link section you can download SMF version 0.9999. I keep tacking on 9s just to avoid that big version 1.0. So if you download this, you get a zip file, and I have not bought WinRAR. So in here you can find the documentation, and if you plan to use the SMF system, I recommend reading through this, at least perusing it. And this describes a little on how to use the SMF model tool and how to use the scripts so that you can play your animations in-game. This file, the YYMPS, that is the local package, so you can import this into a GameMaker Studio 2.3 project. There is also a version for 1.4 that is way outdated, so You can use it, but I don't recommend it. But this is the latest version, so I will extract the model tool and close this. Let's see here. So this is the model tool. And we have 4 views. 3 of them are 2D, 1 is 3D. I'll go straight up into load model up here, and let's load in the mushroom.obj that we just created. So this will also load the relevant textures automatically. So up here in the right corner you can see that we have 3 model indices. 1 for the body, 1 for the backpack, and 1 for the hat. I would like to combine the body and the hat. So I will select both of them, right click, merge selected, yes. So now the body is 1 model and the backpack is 1. Also, for my models, I prefer to have them facing along the X direction, so I will select both of these. Right now he's facing downwards along the Y dimension. So let's spin him around the Z direction. And that is perfect. Okay, so when it comes to animating an object, there are 3 steps. 1, or at least for skeletal animation. 1, you have to create the rig. So if you notice up here, we have 4 tabs that we can use. And you have to use them sequentially, and you can also move back and forth, but the first thing you have to do is to create the rig. And you can think of the rig as kind of the skeleton that is inside the object. So if I, for example, create a node down here, let's increase the opacity. So this is a node that I have created, and I will place that around there. And let's create another node up there. And notice how in between these 2 nodes, you get what's called a bone. And once you have created a rig, you can go into the skinning section, and that will tell the model how it should follow the rig. So I'm going to do this very quickly now first, just to show you how easy it is to get a model to move. And then I will go back and refine it later. So I will just give this character a shoulder, an elbow, and a couple of feet. Okay, so now we have a basic rig. Let's go into the skinning tab, and for now I'm just going to use the auto skin button here, and that will automatically skin the entire model so that this bone, for example, only affects the vertices that are closest to it. So let's go into the animation tab and create a new animation. Let's call this test animation. And if I now use move node IK means inverse kinematics, I can just click this node and drag it, and the arm will move. You can also do this in the 3D view, but we do have to refine things, because if I, for example, move the foot, you can see that the backpack makes some nonsensical movement. Each vertex of the object can be mapped to up to 4 bones. And that is why you can notice how only parts of the backpack are following this bone, and that is because, well, maybe they are affected by other bones. So this is how easily you can rig, skin, and animate a model. But I want to go back here, and I want to give, I want to refine the skeleton. So there are a couple of things I can do. First, I'm going to show you a way to optimize the skeleton, and that is by removing this bone here, because we don't really need that bone. It's inside the character and it doesn't represent any real-life bones. So instead of keeping that, I will detach it. So now bone 7 is still attached to bone 1, but there is no bone in between. So that means that in the animation tool, we can go to drag node, and this node can be moved on its own. Another nice thing about detaching bones like this is that, the node number 7 is not even sent to the shader. So this bone requires practically no processing at all. And I will detach these as well. So the shoulders and the hips, they don't need to be bones. And let's fix the arms a little bit because the bones are poking out of the arm. It's kind of grotesque. Let's see. There we go. And let's give him a thumb as well. This bone does not need to be attached, but this one needs to. Let's see. Control in the 3D view. It's not perfectly in the center there. There we go. And let's fix the other arm as well. Let us also create a bone for the backpack. Because maybe when he runs, like the backpack will bounce back and forth. So let's detach this node and then create a bone for the backpack. Okay, and that's it for the rig. Now I have rigged everything that needs to be moved. Actually, let's see here. Let's make a separate bone for the hat as well, just in case I'd like for that to like bounce back and forth when he runs. Okay, so that's it for rigging. Now let's refine the skinning as well. I will auto skin everything from scratch here. So the process when it comes to skinning is basically to auto skin it first, and then go through each bone and refine the weights. Now you do have some control over how the vertices are auto-skinned, because basically each vertex checks the distance to each bone and raises that distance to a power. So the more, the closer a bone is, the more weight it has, and the higher this power is, the more nearby bones are weighted. So if I raise this power, for example, notice how this bone increases its influence right here, while the influence is reduced in the periphery. So if I increase this to 10, you can see that it gets very concentrated right there. Let's use a power of, say, 6, for example, for now. So let's start with the hat. There are a couple of tools down here. You can paint weights directly onto the model. So let's set the paint weight to 1, additive paint, and we'll use triangle. You can choose between either painting onto an entire triangle. Notice how there are 3 yellow points here. Those are the vertices that will be painted to. Or you can paint to individual vertices. Let's use triangle for now, and a slightly larger radius. And let's just paint the entire cap with 100% weight. Now for this one. This is the backbone, and notice how there are like stray weights up here. So I can remove those with subtractive paint. I don't want the backbone to affect these vertices at all. Let's use additive paint and make sure that the face 100% follows the backbone. I don't want the face to warp when the character moves. And let's test it. Let's see what happens if I, for example, rotate this bone. Okay, that looks pretty acceptable. Maybe the eyebrows should move a little bit with this. So let's set the paint weight to like 0.15. Set paint, radius 0, vertex. Now let's try again. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so let's refine the arms as well. Let's go for the shoulder. Now the first thing I have to do is to remove the stray weights. So I'll use subtractive paint. And let's remove these. I don't want the shoulder to affect these or all the way back there. And there often are stray weights on the opposite side of the model, and that is because of the normal weighting function. I won't go into detail about that, but that is useful for making sure that vertices inside this foot are primarily mapped to the bones that are inside the foot instead of the bones on the other foot. So it doesn't check only distance, it also checks normals. Let's see. Okay, so we have the left shoulder here. I don't want the shoulder to affect the glove. Let's use paint type triangle and remove the weights on the glove. There we go. And I want to reduce the influence it has over the vertices on the body. So I'll use set paint. I'll reduce paint weight to 0.40. And let's go here and reduce these. Right. Actually, let's reduce it to less than 0.3. And the nice thing about this is that when you reduce the weights or the influence for one bone, the vertex automatically normalizes the remaining weights. Let's use subtractive paint and remove these. So let's just test that, see that I can rotate this, and that does not look good at all. Let's move this bone over there and try again. Okay, that looks absolutely terrible. So that tells me that this bone needs a little more influence over here. So let's give it 0.5 influence and use set paint. There we go, and let's switch to vertex. And test again. Okay, that looks a little better. Let's subtract these. Oh, and these, definitely. And try again. Okay, for a simple hand closing and opening, I think that works okay. I should have added more vertices to the hand if I wanted like precise hand movements. But let's just keep it like this. What happens if I move the thumb? Okay, so that hand is done. Let's just save it as mushroom.smf. And let's go into the other hand and fix that as well. So I'll just do the same as I just did. And let's fix the feet. Let's see here. Let's start with this bone and remove any nonsensical weights. Okay, and does the front make sense as well? Yes, it does. How about this? Yeah, it's starting to look good. And this side? Yeah. Let's fix the backpack as well. Now, the main body of the backpack should only follow that bone. So I'll use additive paint. Let's see here. Wait, I need to subtract this because I don't want the back of the character to follow the bone of the backpack. Let's just see what the backpack looks like. So if I, for example, move this bone, I think the strap of the backpack is, yeah, the weight of that is completely wrong. I want to give it more, weight it more towards the body. So let's remove the body and test. I use set paint. Let's see here. Actually, I'll use additive paint because that is faster. And for the, let's see here, left side, I want to set the paint to point, let's set it 0.3 for example. And let's also give the backpack bone some weight here. This should have, let's set it at 0.5. So if I move this bone, the backpack moves like that. Let's unhide the body and test again. So if I move the arm, let's see here, I think it affects the strap a little too much. And let's test again. All right. Yeah, this is better. And over here. Okay, I actually think the skinning for this model is done. Let's see here. Yeah. Just smoothing out this a little bit. So the skinning is done, and it's time to make a simple animation. I'll start by creating an idle animation, and then I want to move his arms into a relaxed position beside his body, maybe like that. Let's see. Yeah, I'll leave it like that for now. And I'd like to move his body a little up and down to make it seem like he's breathing. So I can actually grab this bone and move his body, but I kind of want the legs to stay in one position. And the way I'm going to do that is to select this leg and lock this node. And this node, and that means that this the locked nodes will always try to stay in the same position. And if I then select bone or node number 0, you can see that the legs stay where they are unless I move it far away. So now I can move the body up and down, and the foot will stay in the same position. I do notice one thing, and that is that the foot is rotating a little too much. So maybe I should actually add another bone, and yeah, let me just fast forward through this. I'll add another bone at the foot. Okay, there we go. I'll toggle the grid again and try again and see what happens. Let's see here. Okay, if I turn off transform children, then the leg or the foot will stay in the same position when I move the body. Let's see here. Okay, so now I can dance. Perfect. Okay, I'll clear this keyframe and I'll start over. Move that. I'll turn on transform children. Move this down there. This down there. Then I'll turn it off. And I'll add another keyframe. And I'll copy that, and I'll add another one there. I'll copy this, and I'll add it at the center here. So now the animation has 4 keyframes. So let's make him look, let's see here, rotate local. Let's make him look to the left. All right, I need to enable this again. Make him look to the left there, and then to the right here. And some arm adjustments. Let's increase the animation time to 1500. Well, that's a pretty good idle animation. Okay, let's add a run animation. And I will copy the keyframe from the idle and paste that in here and just get rid of this Okay, so now we're starting in the idle position. Let's rotate it so that he looks straight forward. There we go. And let's use IK to like get the rough bone positions. So let's move one leg there and one leg back there. Let's see here. I'll turn off snap to grid. Move that there. So when the left leg is pointing forward, the right arm should also point forward, and vice versa. And since he's running, he should lean a little forward. There we go. So let's copy this and paste it here, and then we should just make it the complete opposite. Let's see here. Okay, and let's test this. Okay, that looks pretty terrible, but let's continue. I'll copy this frame and add another in-between frame here. Now I want the left foot to make contact with the ground. Like that. That'll make the right foot look like it just kicked off. Isn't this a beautiful walk cycle, huh? Okay, let's make him bounce a little up and down as well. Okay, it doesn't look like running just yet, but give it a little more time. Let's close his fist as well. Okay, so this is where the leg connects with the ground. So I want the backpack to swing to one side. Actually, let's rotate the body a little as well. Okay. Now let's make the backpack swing a little. So this is where you connect with the ground. Okay, and I also need to fix the backpack because the strap is going through. So I want to move the backpack a little back there. Maybe rotate it around its own axis. There we go. And then we have this. Let's move it a little back. Some natural thumb movements as well. Okay, so the animation is done. It is time to save, Control S, and I can close the SMF model tool as well. Okay, so the idle and the walking animation, or running animation rather, are done. And I want to implement the animation into the game. So I'm going to download the source from the previous YouTube video. And I'll save it as part 8. So let's go. Now, all you need to do to import the SMF system into your project is to drag this file into the project. Import asset package, yes. We don't really need everything in here, we only really need this folder. This is a folder containing demos, and these are objects that are used by the demos, so this is everything I need for my project. And now this contains all the scripts that are needed for the SMF system. And let's also add the mushroom to included files. So I have the mushroom here, I can just drag that into the project. Would I like to add that as included file? Yes. So now we have mushroom.smf there. In the object system create event, for the moment I use OSystem for both the system and the player, and I will have to change that later, but not today. So let's load the model, SMF model load mushroom.smf. So now player model contains the handle for the SMF model. In the draw event, instead of submitting the player vertex buffer, I will want to do player model.submit. And that is all you need to do to draw an SMF model. But I also need to set the shader to... I haven't given it a sample yet, so it's not animated at the moment. So I want to use the SHSMF static. And I can remove this. So I think the player might be tiny, but we'll see. Yeah. So he's facing backwards, and that is because of this. And let's make a new variable called var s. Scale is equal to, let's scale it by 32 and see what that looks like. Okay, that is way too big. But you can see that the SMF model contains the texture as well. Let's reduce this to 10, and in the Z offset I want to subtract the player's radius so that he is drawn with his feet on the ground. Okay. So now we have the player object in the game. Now let's make him move. And the way I'm going to do that is by using what's called an SMF animation instance. So let's go back into the create event. This is where I create the model. Instead of drawing the model directly, I want to create the instance. I'll call the first instance I create main instance. And there are multiple ways to create an instance. The old way, which still works, is to use SMF instance create and then give it the player model. The new way of doing it uses the new keyword new SMF instance. And there really isn't much difference, but, well, it looks cooler. So now we have the instance here in the draw event. Instead of submitting the player model, I would like to draw the main instance, like that. And let's use a shader that is compatible with animation. Luckily, the SMF system comes with a shader called SHSMF animate. Okay, and let's just test it. So we should still get the player in T-pose. Let's go to the step event, and here I'd like to play the idle animation when the player is doing nothing and the walking animation when the player is walking. So we have the input here, H and V. I'll rename them H input and V input. And let's just make sure that these are correctly used like that. So let's go all the way to the bottom here. I don't want to mix animation and movement. Animate the player. Okay, so if we have clicked either the horizontal or the vertical buttons, the easy way to do that, to check, is to do if, and if not, H input is equal to 0 and V input is equal to 0. Then I want to play the running animation. That is main inst.play run. And for the animation speed, I'll just put 0.02 for now. Lerp speed, that defines how quickly it should switch from one animation to another. If you set it to 1, it's instant. Let's set it to 0.1 for now. Reset timer, this should always be false if you do it like this. Like if you set this to true and then use this every step, the animation will never really start because it's being reset all the time. Doing it like this will make it just play and continue playing. So if we have not pressed any buttons, let's play the idle animation instead. And after doing this, we have to update the instance as well. main.inst.step. And this function needs to know how quickly time should pass. For most games, you can just supply 1. But if you play around with delta time, you can use that in here to make animations like make up for the delta time. And we got a, let's see here, that is because of the rename up here. Of course, it didn't work. Let's try again. Okay, so now the idle animation is playing. It's a little fast. And let's see if the running animation works. Perfect. And notice how when I start running and then stop, he smoothly goes back to the idle animation. Okay, now I would like to use the speed that I defined in the SMF model tool. The animation counter goes from 0 to 1, 0 being the start of the animation and 1 being the end. So I want to find the time it takes for this animation to finish. So let's see here. Then I want to get the animation, var anim, and that is the player model. We can use the function called getAnimation. And I should get the intelligence, but I see that it doesn't appear. But that requires an argument called name. So let's give it the name of the animation. Let's get the time of the play time of the animation. That should be anim.playTime. And let's create the animation speed. So the playtime is given in milliseconds, and to find the final speed of the animation we need to do 1000 milliseconds over, actually let's just get rid of this, over that, over the FPS. So that's game speed, game get speed, game speed FPS. There we go. And let's use anim speed there. And let's do the same here. And this can be optimized, of course. But I think this should be correct. Okay, the running looks correct, but I forgot to use that there. Okay, so the idle animation looks correct. Okay, this is starting to look very good. Let's increase the size of the player. I think it's a little small. That's a little big. 13. Okay, so the next thing I need is a jumping animation. So let us create a new animation. I think I will do this fast-forwarded. Forgive me. Isn't this a beautiful jumping animation, huh? Okay, let's save it. Saved. Save as mushroom, yes. And let's exit and go into the included files here and replace this. Replace. There we go. Now we should have a jumping animation as well. And let's go into the step event. And let's add another if. If not on ground. Wait, isn't ground a variable? Yeah, it is. Else. So if we are not touching ground, I would like to play the jumping animation. Jump. Okay, and I want the lerp speed to be a little higher there. 0.25. Let's increase these slightly. Okay, there we go.